In this video, we are going through the top 10 suburbs to live in Austin, Texas for families. And so if you are someone who has been contemplating a move to Austin, Texas, and are really not sure what to make of the fluctuation in prices, the different demands in different areas, how Austin is evolving, and of course, the overwhelming abundance of options in the greater Austin area, this one's for you, so stay tuned. Hey again, everybody. This is Frank with the team of agents at JB Goodwin Realtors. Every week we put out new content about Austin, Texas, the good and the bad, so consider subscribing if you haven't already, and ring the little bell to get notified whenever we put out a new video. In addition to that, we love the reach outs we get now all the time from people just like you in need of our help when relocating to Austin, Texas. So keep them coming. Don't hesitate. Whether you're 9 days away or 90, shoot our team a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. So before we go through the 10 best suburbs for families in the greater Austin area, first, a few disclaimers. For starters, this is going to be pulled from niche.com and additional public information. So this is not a subjective list. Otherwise, just being me, I might rank these in a different order, but my job is to relay the information, so relay I shall. Disclaimer number 2, I don't think any of us really want an hour-long video on our hands, and because there are 10 places to go through on this list, I really am just going to be talking about some notable information, some different things for each one that you might need to know, but it's going to be very surface level, very basic. If you're wanting something a bit more in-depth, if one of these places happens to catch your interest, we do have a number of longer videos dedicated for each different part of Austin, Texas, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to go through them so that we can keep it short and sweet. Final disclaimer is that I have a few bones to pick with, not exactly what's on the list, but how the list is put together. So what I mean by that is, for example, what is ranked 9, 7, and then say 4 are going to be all part of an area that I would just categorize as a single area. But the way niche.com works is they will really get as specific as possible and call this neighborhood, and that neighborhood a suburb, even though these places are basically minutes away from each other in a larger general area that I would call a suburb. So what that means is if a place on this list comes up a few spots after a place I've already talked about, and the two are literally 1 minute away from each other, the information might be a bit repetitive, but I will do my best to keep it fresh and unique for each and every entry. Okay, so before number 10, first a few honorable mentions, because last year we put out a similar video, and in the comments a lot of people were asking, well, where's this place? Where's that place? And truth of the matter is, according to niche.com, a lot of these places are going to be ranked between 10 and 20. Now again, subjectively, I would actually argue that some of these places that did not make the top 10 should be in the top 10, but different criteria, they look at it a lot more objectively than I do. But to whom it may concern, 5 of those places between 10 and 20 that I might argue should be in the top 10 are going to be Hutto, Georgetown, Dripping Springs, Buda, and Pflugerville. But at number 10, we finally have Round Rock, Texas. And pretty much on any list, if you're doing your homework on the greater Austin area, Round Rock is going to pop up. It is essentially, in my opinion, the suburban hub of the greater Austin area. It is the destination for young professionals, for families, for retirees. It's a melting pot of all different demographics of basically people who want to live in the greater Austin area, but they don't want to live too close to the city. In Round Rock, you are going to have a rather consistent median home price, which is going to be right around $460,000. In addition to that, something I like about Round Rock and that a lot of other people like about Round Rock is that for it being a suburb, it is not too far removed from the downtown area. On average, you're looking at about between 20 and 30 minutes from the heart of downtown Austin, depending on where in Round Rock you reside, because it is quite large. In addition, if you are going to be working in tech, which is what a lot of people come to Austin for, if you live in Round Rock, you are going to be only on average between 15 and 25 minutes, which is a breath of fresh air for people who don't want too large of a commute. Lastly, what I'll say about Round Rock, Texas is that it does have an abundance of things to do in its own right. You're not really going to get bored in Round Rock, Texas. However, it is going to be more suburban things to do rather than what the city of Austin will hang its hat on. Up next, at number 9, we have Bee Cave, Texas, which is going to be the first Texas Hill Country entry on this list, or what I would otherwise call West Austin. But as mentioned, niche.com likes to get very specific with where it ranks these different places. So for Bee Cave, Texas, as mentioned, with it being in the Texas Hill Country, you are going to have an abundance of views. You're going to have gorgeous neighborhoods and great amenities, at least for a place that is relatively secluded. As well, for Bee Cave, Texas, you are going to have a median home price of right around $930,000, obviously paying for what you get out there in West Austin, Texas. On average, depending on where in Bee Cave, Texas you live, you are going to be between 15 and 20 miles from downtown Austin, looking like, again, another 20 to 30 minutes from the heart of downtown Austin. And your tech hub, if you're going to be working in tech, is again going to be a similar 30 minutes from Bee Cave, Texas. Lastly, on the subject of Bee Cave, Texas, you are going to be zoned for the Lake Travis Independent School District, which is one of the better school districts in the greater Austin area. Not going to be quite on par with either the Round Rock Independent School District, which is what attracts a lot of people to Round Rock, or the Leander Independent School District. But rest assured, Lake Travis is still very respectable and ranks consistently year after year as one of the best. Moving right along to number 8 on this list, we have Leander, Texas, a very popular suburb, very well in demand by people who are relocating to the greater Austin area. I believe reason number 1 is because of its schools. As I recently mentioned, the Leander Independent School District is one of the cream of the crop districts in the greater Austin area. A lot of people like to have their children go there, and once upon a time, a couple decades ago, that's where I went to school as well. So I personally vouch for it, but I don't want to really have too much bias in this video. In Leander, Texas, you are going to have a median home price of around $460,000 to $470,000, making it very comparable to Round Rock, except in Leander's case, it is going to be northwest of downtown Austin, about 20 to 30 minutes away, and only about 15 to 20 minutes from tech. What's cool about Leander is that it has an abundance of future plans, making it a current hotspot that people are flocking to before it appreciates. But as it currently stands, it's already appreciating quite rapidly, as opposed to other places that are gradually becoming more and more expensive. In addition to that, something about Leander that a lot of people like are the new build communities. They're really just spitting them out all over the place. Our team works with a lot of the builders in Leander all the time, because a lot of the people who reach out to us obviously have their eyes set on Leander. Lastly, on the subject of Leander, Texas, what I'll add is that it also has a decent amount of luxurious options. So if you go west enough in Leander, you are going to experience a bit of the Texas Hill Country, as I previously mentioned on this video. So if you are wanting the best schools, for example, but you're also wanting to shop north of $800,000 or $900,000 into the millions, Leander does have that selection as well. Up next, at number 7 on this list, we have Lakeway, Texas, another entry of the Texas Hill Country, that West Austin area. So it is going to be very similar to number 9 on this list, which is Bee Cave, because Lakeway is just minutes away from Bee Cave. What makes Lakeway unique, however, is that Lakeway is going to be closer to Lake Travis, whereas Bee Cave is going to be a bit more rolling hills, if you will. So in Lakeway, Texas, your median actually is going to be right around $850,000, which is going to be a little bit more affordable than the $930,000 that Bee Cave has. And again, in Lakeway, Texas, you are zoned for the Lake Travis Independent School District. Again, you're between 20 and 30 minutes from downtown and about 30 minutes from that tech corridor in North Austin. Moving right along to number 6 on this list, we have Cedar Park, Texas, aka suburbia at its finest. And this is going to be comparable to Round Rock, just in terms of aesthetics, just in terms of great schools. So if you're living in Cedar Park, Texas, you are still going to be zoned for the very large Leander Independent School District, except in the case of Cedar Park, your median is going to be a little bit steeper. It's going to be north of $500,000, specifically right around $520,000 on average. But what's interesting about Cedar Park is that you are going to be a little bit closer to downtown, a little bit closer to the tech corridor, because it is about 5 to 10 minutes south of Leander, Texas. So what that means is if you're going to be working out of corporate downtown, you're only going to be about 20 to 25 minutes away. And if you're going to be working from tech, you're only going to be about 10 to 15 minutes away. Now, lastly, what I'll say about Cedar Park, Texas, at least regarding what it has working against it, is that it really is just suburbia, in the sense of you have your great schools, you have your grocery stores, you have your chain restaurants, but other than that, you might get a little bored if you're going to be living in Cedar Park. Thankfully, you're not too far removed from where all the action happens downtown, but unless you like to maybe go on trails or like to have a picnic or just go to the local park and walk around, there really just isn't much for Cedar Park to offer. That might be right for you, or it might not. Up next at number 5, we have Shady Hollow, which is going to be the very first and last entry on this list that is in South Austin. I suppose that means niche.com really prefers either West Austin or the northern Austin suburbs. But yes, let us celebrate for South Austin, Shady Hollow. And what's most appealing about Shady Hollow is its proximity to downtown Austin. You're only going to be around 10 to 20 minutes maximum from where everything happens in downtown Austin. So in terms of amenities and things to do, you're really not going to ever get bored in Shady Hollow. Now, what I will say is that you're not necessarily going to have these stunning landscapes and views, say, of West Austin, Texas, but you are going to have nice aesthetics. The culture is going to be very rich and charming. Lastly, on the subject of Shady Hollow, you're only going to be about 20 to 25 minutes from that North Austin tech hub. So if you are relocating here to work in tech and you're not going to be working from home, that is going to be quite a decent commute, at least relative to a lot of people moving here from the coastal cities where they have to commute 1 to 2 hours each and every day. All right, moving right along to number 4 on this list, we have the Hills, Texas. Yet another entry from that Texas Hill Country area, from that West Austin area. So it is going to be very similar once again to Bee Cave, Texas, just minutes away, and very similar to Lakeway, Texas, again, just minutes away. They're really all just in a pocket on that map, right? But what is unique about the Hills, Texas is that it is essentially an even more upscale and luxurious version, if you will, of Bee Cave, Texas, with a median home price of right around $1 million. Again, you're going to be zoned for the Lake Travis Independent School District. You're going to be only about 20 to 30 minutes from the heart of downtown Austin and another 30 minutes from that tech hub in North Austin. Now, real quickly, before moving on to the remaining places on this list, drop a comment down below with any questions or opinions for us, or as well, if you happen to live in any of these areas, let the people know what you think of them. If we've been providing any value for you, consider liking this video as well. Remember to subscribe, and lastly, share it with anyone you know who's wanting to learn more about living in Austin, Texas. All right, now moving right along to number 3 on this list, we have Brushy Creek, Texas. And what's interesting about Brushy Creek, Texas is that it is essentially both Cedar Park, Texas and Round Rock, Texas combined into one overall general suburb of Austin, Texas, which, yes, they call Brushy Creek. And it's interesting though, because if you live in Cedar Park, one of the main roads in Cedar Park is literally called Brushy Creek, right? And if you go just east enough on Brushy Creek, you are all of a sudden in Round Rock, Texas. So the criteria for Brushy Creek on this list that I can provide is essentially going to be a mix of what I said about Cedar Park, Texas, and a mix of what I said about Round Rock, Texas. I suspect the reason that niche.com ranked this at number 3 is because if you live in Brushy Creek, depending on if you're a little bit west or a little bit east, you basically have your pick of either the Leander Independent School District or the Round Rock Independent School District. Again, arguably 2 of the best districts in the greater Austin area. Lastly, on the subject of Brushy Creek, you are going to have a median home price of right around $550,000, again, being only about 20 to 30 minutes from downtown and about 15 to 25 from tech. Coming in at number 2, we have none other than the Westlake Hills, arguably Austin's most prime, exclusive, sought-after real estate, with a median home price of right around just only $2.5 million. Now, what makes the Westlake Hills so sought after is obviously, given its name, the Westlake Hills. You are in one of the most beautiful parts of Austin, Texas. However, you're not going to be so far out west similar to Bee Cave, Lakeway, or the Hills. This is literally going to be roughly 10 minutes from the heart of downtown Austin. So it's the best of both worlds. You are going to have arguably some of the best views in all of Austin, Texas, some of the nicest homes in all of Austin, Texas. And you're not going to be that far from Austin, Texas, not to be redundant, but that really is such a beautiful blend that it makes it so exclusive and hard to get. Now, for the Westlake Hills, in addition to only being roughly 10 minutes from the heart of downtown Austin, as well, you're only going to be about 15 to 20 minutes from the heart of that tech hub in North Austin. Lastly, for the Westlake Hills, you are going to be zoned for the Eanes Independent School District, arguably one of the greater school districts in the totality of the greater Austin area, except it is going to be very small, especially when you're comparing it to the powerhouses like Leander and Round Rock. With Eanes being such a small school district, it is essentially just going to cover that exclusive area of the Westlake Hills. Now, last but certainly not least, finally at number 1, we have Rollingwood. And this is exactly why this list cracks me up, because Rollingwood is literally just down the street from the Westlake Hills, except the only differential is that Rollingwood has a median of $2.8 million instead of $2.5 million. So the schools are going to be pretty much the same. As well, it's only going to be about 10 minutes from the heart of downtown Austin, and again, only about 15 to 20 minutes from the tech workforce in North Austin. So there you guys have it. And just to review once again, I've got my trusty notepad for lefties here, just gonna run through the list. We've got Round Rock at number 10, Bee Cave at number 9, Leander at number 8, Lakeway at number 7, Cedar Park at number 6, Shady Hollow at number 5, The Hills at number 4, Brushy Creek number 3, the Westlake Hills at number 2, and Rollingwood at number 1. And so that's the thing about the list, you know, anything between 10 and 20, the places I mentioned that are honorable, I would have argued could have been ranked in this top 10, but as you can see, some of these places between 10 and 1 could really be under the same umbrella, or that are basically the same place, which is kind of the pet peeve of mine. But again, my job is to simply relay the information, and so there you have it. Whether you prefer Leander, Texas, whether you prefer South Austin, whether you prefer the Texas Hill Country, or maybe something under the radar like Kyle or Buda or Taylor or Hutto, anything in between, that is what we are here for, helping people relocate to Austin, Texas, making that move as smooth as possible. But again, the only way we can do that is by you reaching out to us. So again, don't hesitate, whether you're 9 days away or 90, reach out to our team, whether you shoot us a text, send us an email, give us a call, any day of the week, any time of day. We've got your back when moving to Austin, Texas. And again, we put out tons of new content every week about living in Austin, Texas, the good and the bad. So consider subscribing if you haven't, and ring the little bell to get notified whenever we put out a new video. Comment down below, like the video if we've been providing any value for you, share it with anyone you know. And until the next one, you guys, my name is Frank. This is Living in Austin, Texas, and we will absolutely catch you later.